quickly on the dangers of antibiotics and how to possibly heal your gut if you have any sort of issues with your gut. Maybe you have more bad bacteria than you do good, and you have maybe leaky gut syndrome, maybe you have SIBO, maybe you have, IBD, which is a general term. Something that you can do right now is to look into getting some fish oil. So I strongly believe, and sometimes you don't really need science or research to prove something like your theory or your claim. However, I think that there is something to say about the fish oil, because the fish oil, if you notice that in the Japanese diet, a lot of fish, and you'll notice that they are typically much more slender, they're more slim and kind of thin, and that's typically due to their diet and their way of eating. So considering that, and if you understand that, and if you're aware of that, now you can take steps to practice that style of eating. The one thing that you should be doing right now is stop eating sugary foods, stop eating processed foods, and stop, resorting to antibiotics as your first line of defense, if that makes sense. Antibiotics have its place, but you want to exhaust all of your resources before you agree to using antibiotics if prescribed by your doctor. Because this is the thing. Your doctors went to school, medical school, to be doctors and to learn how to prescribe drugs according to your condition and your symptoms. Okay, if you understand that, then you can choose your way of thinking so that you can get to the actual problem of the situation that you're in, versus trying to mask the symptoms. Because the thing with the drugs is that they are only going to mask the symptoms. They're not actually going to solve the problem. The fact that when you take antibiotics, a full course of antibiotics, there seems to be that it actually decreases your good bacteria and it increases the bad bacteria. Why is this important? This is important to understand because if you have too much bad bacteria, you're going to not be able to absorb the nutrients that you need as efficiently or as well than if you had more good bacteria. Okay, so you need to have a good amount of good bacteria in your gut, and you need to understand that the foods that you're eating, if it's, for example, too much high FODMAP foods or too much sugar, specifically sugar processed foods, will start to decrease that good bacteria. Okay, the sugar specifically is very dangerous if you're not careful on how much of it you're eating. Foods with sugar include things like jams, certain peanut butters, certain cereals, certain juices, depending on the juice. So something to be really mindful of, okay? Your sugar intake and your antibiotic use. However, bringing to you a solution is you can look into getting fish oil right now. Okay, so I've been talking about fish oil several times in my previous videos, and I'm a strong believer that it does heal the gut, because if you look at the Japanese and the Mediterranean diet is very high in olive oil, fish, so like specifically like salmon, for example. They obviously eat poultry, they eat red meat, and they eat very little amounts of sweets and sugary drinks. Okay, if you look at their lifespan and just generally their body type, they typically are a little bit more slimmer, on the slimmer side, a little bit more thin. So if you can connect the dots here and understand that if they're eating this way and they're looking this way, then it might make sense to look into eating that way too. So I really like fish oil, pure fish oil from Amazon. Obviously, you can always eat the actual fish. I wouldn't discourage that. However, for simplicity purposes, because people are always on the go, you can just get fish oil off of Amazon. You can get wild caught Alaska or cod liver oil and take about a shot of that every other day or so. And I can guarantee, I'm pretty confident that it will heal your gut. It's a miracle oil that will do miraculous things. Okay. Try using that, and then using or consuming more berries, specifically raspberries, blueberries, strawberries. Now, if you're a person of bread and you love to eat some bread, try looking into getting some low gluten or like free of gluten bread. You can also look into spelt, 100% spelt bread. There's a certain brand called Keel that seems to be a very good brand of bread. It tastes pretty good. It tastes like any other bread. I used to eat that pretty often, but it's only available in certain stores. Another thing that you can do right now to help heal the gut if you're suspecting signs of gut issues are things like bloating, gas, diarrhea, constipation. Maybe you have your gut is a little bit more enlarged. Then that could be a sign that something's going on with your digestion in your gut. Also, another thing that you can look at is your stool. So basically your poop. Okay, so you want to look at your Bristol stool chart. And if you're in between a 3 and a 4, meaning your stool is long and cylinder-like and it's generally hard, it's not floating, and it's not like too liquidy, then that's a good sign. Okay, you have a healthy stool. But if it's not that long cylinder-like material and kind of hard, then you may, more than likely, you're having some digestion issues. So this is the thing. If you suspect you have gut issues, you're not digesting your food properly, or you're not absorbing the nutrients that you need from your foods because you have too much bad bacteria, you can look into a low FODMAP diet. Now, you want to be very careful with this because if you don't have SIBO, then it possibly could make things worse. However, I think it's pretty safe to generally conclude that a low FODMAP diet you could kind of experiment with that on your diet, in your body. So FODMAP stands for fermentable oligo D monosaccharides and polyols. I'll have a picture on the screen so that you can see for yourself. So there is the IBD diet, low FODMAP, high FODMAP foods. Okay, so high FODMAP foods include foods that are generally healthy, things like the broccoli. Broccoli is in the cruciferous family. Typically, when you eat broccoli, sometimes some people get really bloated, they get really constipated, and that's because usually that's going to is a sign that something's going on with their digestion from IBD. They probably do have IBD or SIBO or what have you. So in that case, then you want to go on that, again, low FODMAP diet. So something else I noticed, if you look at people with autism, people on the spectrum, they typically have gut issues. And have you ever wondered why? I'm still doing a lot of research on this, and it's actually really fascinating to learn about. And it seems to be that the people with certain people with autism, they seem to have a deficiency in an acid called butyric, butyric, acid deficiency, which is likely a central cause of elevated inflammation in the GI tract. Okay, so also something to add on to that is that butyric acid, let's just jump on the bandwagon here. I'm just going to read it really quickly. It's an acid-producing bacteria that's anaerobic, okay? That's anaerobic, spore-forming microorganisms that ferment carbohydrates to produce butyric acid. Knowing that, I'm going to insert a picture here on the screen of what happens when you take antibiotics and how it relates to how it affects your gut flora. You'll notice that you'll see in the photo that antibiotics, almost every single kind of antibiotic, it decreases your anaerobic bacteria, which is the good bacteria. It decreases it significantly. Okay, so this is, again, one of the reasons why you want to avoid antibiotics as much as you humanly possibly can. Okay, so what can you do to prevent bloating, gas, and just gut issues in general? Get some fish oil. That's number one. Making sure that you're sleeping enough, making sure that you're not stressed, because if you are stressed, it will lead to GI issues. And what's called the gut-brain axis, and it's a two-way communication between your GI tract and your brain. So this is one of the reasons, again, you want to control your nervous system, kind of relax yourself when you need to relax, making sure you're sitting down and eating your food versus standing up, and again, watching what you're eating. Get some fish oil. Look into adopting the Mediterranean diet. It's a healthy eating pattern that will promote healthy fats into your way of eating. Things like walnuts are also high omega. Fish oil, seafood like salmon. If you eat animal protein, eggs, red meat, avoiding sweets as much as possible, sugary drinks, and modified in the like condiments, like sauces and stuff like that. And also drinking more water, and of course avoiding processed foods and sugary foods so that you have a healthy gut microbiome.